Gun violence, threats in schools, and Utahns saying it's time for change.
People of all ages here in Utah letting their voices be heard when it comes to gun violence. The changes they're hoping to see and how police are enhancing their response to active shooter situations.
Right now, our storm has moved out of Utah and our temperatures are on the rise. So will we have flooding concerns heading into Easter weekend?
Little Cottonwood Canyon is still closed, trapping people at the resorts for days.
Everyone's pretty antsy. There's definitely some cabin fever.
We're seeing these slides triggered in places that we don't usually see slides.
With severe avalanche danger when the roads might be safe enough to travel.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in April, how the storms have summoned Santa to one Utah city.
Thank you everyone for tuning in for Fox 13 News at 9. I'm Kelly Chapman. We begin with breaking news coming out of South Salt Lake City tonight. Police are reporting a possible road rage shooting. This happened just before 7 o'clock this evening at 1967 South, 300 West, right near the Home Depot in that area. Police say one man was shot. He was taken to the hospital with serious injuries, but is now in stable condition. No arrests have been made, and police do not have any suspect information at this time. They say there does not appear to be a threat to the community at this point. They also gave some advice if you were to ever come across a similar situation.
Call 911 and avoid a confrontation. I would say it's always a good idea to avoid any confrontation, take down any information you can, and call 911 immediately.
Right now, police are asking if there are any witnesses who left the scene prior to police getting there to please give them a call at 801-799-3000. Meanwhile, America is facing a harsh reality as gun violence continues to affect people all across the country, from Nashville to Uvalde and Denver. Today, Utahns were speaking out in protest, hoping to see some changes made. Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold shows us how students, faculty, and law enforcement are addressing this issue across the Salt Lake Valley.
We owe it to ourselves, our communities, and to all those who have been impacted by gun violence.
We still don't feel heard by the legislative here, by the representatives that we've helped elect.
About 150 people taking to the steps of the Utah State Capitol, adding their voices to the growing distress over gun violence.
The symbolism in being here is to force them to look at us.
This was part of the March for Our Lives rally, a student-run organization that started following the Stoneman Douglas school shooting in 2018. Ellie Otis is a coordinator with the organization's Utah chapter.
We don't want to have to worry about active shooters. We don't want to have to worry about our friends dying in front of us. And we're basically asking the generations above us to help protect the ones below us.
A similar sight seen across the Salt Lake Valley on Wednesday, including from students, faculty, and staff with the Salt Lake Arts Academy.
Our safety in school, we can't learn if we can't feel safe.
We've had many shelter-in-place practices, and it really upsets the students.
A walkout those like teacher Karen Fenn hope comes with a big message.
Stopping gun violence, stopping threats in schools is one of the most important things.
According to data from the CDC, nearly 49,000 people died from firearm injuries in the United States in 2021, a surge of 23% over 2 years during the COVID-19 pandemic. Last week, an active shooter shot and killed 6 people, including 3 children at a school in Nashville. 2 days later, fake active shooter calls took place across the country. That included calls to more than a dozen schools here in Utah, like Ogden High School. While it ended up being a hoax, here at the Ogden Police Department, they're crediting one of their resources with helping officers respond both quickly and efficiently.
Social media post picture.
So as soon as the call came in, one of the analysts accessed those feeds and began scrutinizing all of the views to see what they could see.
It's called the Area Tactical Analysis Center, or ATAC.
We became operational in July 2011.
David Wheeloth has been the director of ATAC for 5 years. Through a partnership with the Ogden School District, Wheeloth says their analysts were able to access live feeds from the hundreds of cameras inside Ogden High School the moment the call of an active shooter came out.
That's the true value for us, is that as soon as the call came in, we were virtually inside the building. When those camera feeds are pulled up, the view is like a multiplex, so you can see 20 to 30 views at a time.
Ogden Police Lieutenant Will Farr says this gives them the ability to have an eye on a situation before officers even arrive.
Especially a situation as volatile as a potential active shooter is something that's extremely important.
Lieutenant Farr says this also allows them to instantaneously do the work of several officers.
That we have the ability to be able to do in moments what it would take one officer or a few officers, potentially an hour to be able to clear different areas.
Fox 13 News reached out to the Ogden School District about ATAC. In a statement, a spokesperson with the district said it has become increasingly useful and important for schools and law enforcement to work together, not only in responding to a crisis, but also to prevent emergency situations. He went on to say that having an integrated system that allows police to access live closed-circuit camera feeds from our schools is a key part of that collaboration. Braving the chilly weather on Wednesday, those like Otis are hoping this shows how united people are on this issue as they push for changes.
It's important for us to hold events like this to, first of all, show that we are, as a nation, are very together on this, are very together on what needs to happen in order to prevent gun violence.
In Salt Lake, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, heavy snow today caused the roof of a garage to collapse in Park City's Pine Brook neighborhood. Take a look here at these pictures. It happened around 3:30 this afternoon. No one was home at the time and no one was hurt. This is now the fourth snow-related roof collapse to happen in Park City in the past 3 days. All that heavy snow, the storm we had over the past few days, Allison, we're seeing things like this. And also now the potential for flooding is a real thing on people's minds.
Certainly, we'll have more on that coming up in about 10 minutes. But for right now here in Salt Lake City, 36 here in Salt Lake, 34 for Ogden, 33 in Provo. What we're tracking for you tonight is clearing. And with this storm clearing, moving out, our clouds are thinning out. That means our temperatures are going to drop tonight. So get ready for a very cold Thursday morning. As we look at our temperatures through the evening, we're going to have temps in the 20s through the night. And then when you wake up tomorrow morning, teens and 20s here across the state. Temperatures at 10 p.m., about 20 to 30 for much of Utah into tomorrow morning. Close to 0 for Evanston and Park City. About 15 degrees for the Cache Valley tomorrow morning. 10 for Beaver, 31 for St. George. And then with your main weather headlines, we do have temperatures warming up heading into Easter weekend. But for tomorrow, we do have a very cold start expected. More on flooding concerns here across the state coming up.
We are now one day closer to watching witnesses take the stand in the trial for Lori Vallow Daybell. The Idaho mother is accused of murdering her children in 2019, among a list of other charges. So far, 39 jurors have moved forward into the next phase. No cameras are allowed inside the courtroom, but Karen Lair from our sister station KIVI has been monitoring a live feed from inside the courthouse in Boise all week. She has the latest details.
For a third straight day, dozens of Ada County residents questioned at the courthouse considered for the jury in the high-profile trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. Potential jurors again warned they'll be required to review emotionally charged evidence, including autopsy photos of children, which, like in days prior, concerned some individuals. A mother of 5 dismissed after saying she'd struggle to set emotions aside and remain fair and impartial. Another man moves forward despite the defense's request for dismissal after expressing feelings the defendant's involvement was, quote, suspicious. He vowed he could fairly consider the evidence as presented. Prosecutors again asking if jurors would be able to convict for murder if they weren't offered a definitive cause of death, emphasizing the importance of following formal jury instructions. One unresolved issue is still awaiting a formal ruling whether or not the biological grandparents of victim J.J. Vallow will be allowed in the courtroom. They're witnesses who will eventually take the stand, but a ruling in place prohibits witnesses from watching others' testimony. The exception is victims. So at question, are grandparents considered immediate family members? They're also the ones who first called police in 2019 that started the chain of events leading to Lori and Chad Daybell's arrests and eventual murder charges. Now, we do expect that ruling any day now, and it would have to be addressed prior to opening arguments. We personally have not yet seen the Woodcocks yet, but we're told told they are in town and they're ready and prepared to attend the trial. Reporting in Boise, Idaho, I'm Karen Lair, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The city is forcing a wildlife rehab center to close its doors and find a new location. Coming up, what happens to the creatures if they can't find a new home?
Coming up, hear from people stuck at ski resorts and when we can expect roads to open again.
Christmas in April. The snow has brought Santa to town.
It's insane. I don't think I'll ever get over scoring a 10.
Coming up, we'll hear from Jaden Rucker, the defending national champion in the vault, and she scored 2 straight 10s for the Utes.
After digging out our cars, shoveling our driveways for what feels like the millionth time this year, right? Many Utahns do not want to deal with the snow anymore. But Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us how one man is spreading joy during the harsh winter in a way that is positively Utah.
Maybe just brings back a little bit of the Christmas joy.
It's the first week of April.
Merry Christmas!
But Kenny Cap isn't letting the Christmas spirit melt away.
Everybody loves the things that Santa represents.
Seeing his bountiful neighbors frustrated dealing with snow, he decided it was time to dig out the red suit.
With all the snow we've been getting, you start hearing people, oh no, I wish it'd quit, I wish it'd quit. And it's like, I can have some fun with this.
He jumped in his four-wheeler and drove through parking lots and neighborhoods.
So fun to see Santa, especially here in spring and the snow. Definitely fitting, and it's good to see him out and about. Who did you see?
Santa Claus.
You saw Santa Claus?
Kenny actually considers himself an introvert.
I love your gloves. Are you having fun today?
Yeah.
But when he puts on the suit and the hat, Kenny becomes Santa.
My wife says, you gotta remember you're not Santa. I said, oh, but I am Santa.
Kenny says he plans on going out and spreading the Christmas cheer all week long, or at least until all the snow melts and it starts feeling like spring. In Bountiful, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, now we know what Santa does in his off time, right?
Yeah.
We do have warmer temperatures on the way. It was so nice to see and feel that sunshine, Allison. It's amazing what a little sun and, a little bit warmer temperatures, how fast some of the snow was melting earlier.
That's right. People are wondering right now, with the warmer temperatures on the way, should we expect flooding this weekend? So, of course, that is the big question top of mind. Temperatures are on the rise. And I chatted with Monica Trapphagen, the lead meteorologist at the National Weather Service here in Salt Lake today, about this temperature trend and the different types of runoff that we typically see, because I know there's a lot of you that are really concerned right now.
For anybody who's feeling really anxious right now about the snow melts, particularly a lot of people comparing to, what could happen this year versus 1983, do you have an outlook or any words that would help maybe calm any of those fears?
In looking at our next 7-day period with this warm up, our concerns for flooding are low, and beyond that, we're just kind of in a wait and see period. It's more than just the amount of snow you have. It's how it comes down. Does it all come down at once, or does it come down low, mid, high in a more orderly, in a more regular fashion? And what we're seeing so far is encouraging for diminishing those flooding concerns, in that we'll get that low elevation snowpack.
So what Monica was talking about there is initially low elevation snow belt we typically see first, and then you get to the mid and then the high elevations. And ideally we see that trend low to mid to high. But the bigger concern in our 7-day outlook, the temperatures in southern Utah. So Monica recommends people who are planning on hiking in slot canyons over the next week, checking with the local agencies like the state park or the national park, the Bureau of Land Management, in the area that you're going to be exploring to see what the snowmelt is like in those specific slot canyons before you head out on those hikes, because temperatures into the St. George area are going to be close to about 85 degrees heading into Easter and early next week. So we've got some really warm temps on the way. But one thing I do want to put it into perspective for you is our temperatures typically this time of year are close to 60 degrees. That's a normal high. we're just so below average right now that when we see a 65-degree day or a 70-degree day in the forecast, we're like, whoa, that seems so crazy. It's really pretty normal for this time of year. We have temperatures the last couple of days and today that have been about 25 to 20 degrees below average. Today we only made it to 41 here in Salt Lake. So we head into the next couple of days, we're still below average. And then, yes, we are going to be warming up with likely our peak temperature on Monday. But then we're going to cool down again next week. So we're starting to get that low elevation snow melt. Yes, things are running fast, cold and high. Be careful with your pets and your kids as you typically would with snow melt. And I want you just to bundle up tomorrow morning because we're talking about some warmer temps, but they're not quite here yet. And tonight's going to be really chilly as our storm has moved out. We've lost the cloud cover and we're going to have temps close to 20 degrees tomorrow morning. So as we look at satellite and radar here across northern Utah, we do have mostly clear sky. Southern Utah, same thing. We head into the next couple of days. We're going to have some really pleasant afternoons. And then next week, we'll even have some mild mornings for you. So tomorrow, 7 a.m. into the teens for the Cache Valley, single digits for Park City. Close to about 20 degrees for Price and Vernal tomorrow morning. Evanston, close to 0. St. George, right around freezing tomorrow morning. And as we look at our temperatures throughout the day tomorrow for the Wasatch Front, we're going to have a really nice afternoon. All things considering, still about 15 degrees below normal for this time of year. And we'll have a cold morning, so grab that warmer jacket as you're heading out. St. George, you'll also want to grab a warm jacket in the 30s tomorrow morning, low 30s, but you're going to warm into the 60s. That's pickleball weather if you ask me. So as we look at our temperatures the next couple of days, we'll eventually see the warmer temperatures here across northern Utah also, but tomorrow about 45 degrees for much of the state for a daytime high. St. George into the 60s. Our storm is off to our east, and then we end up with high pressure becoming our main story here across the region. And that will allow us to have pretty decent conditions heading into Easter weekend, which will be fantastic news for travel. I know a lot of you are sick of driving in the snow right now. Now, I talked about the concerns in southern Utah for flooding, and that's because we're going to get temperatures mid-80s, the hottest temperatures we've seen so far this year. So tomorrow in St. George, 63, 70 just about Friday and Saturday, and then Easter into next week, 80 to 85. Now for Salt Lake City, we have low 40s tomorrow, 50 on Friday with mostly cloudy sky. Saturday, 57. Easter Sunday here in Salt Lake, 64 degrees. Monday is our warmest day at 72. So enjoy it. Yes, just be clear and careful around any streams and creeks. Could see some locally areas of some ponding near those places, but overall a pretty great forecast for northern Utah. And then back into the 50s by next Wednesday. We'll talk more about what to expect over the next 2 weeks coming up in your Super 7-Day Outlook.
Tonight, Big Cottonwood Canyon is back open after being closed for avalanche mitigation and debris cleanup since last night. However, still no clear end in sight for Little Cottonwood Canyon, where people have been trapped for several days now. Fox 13 News reporter Lucy Nelson spoke with staff and guests to see what it's like being stuck inside, all because of record-breaking avalanche danger.
Looking out here, seeing the sun for the first time.
Luke Stone is on day 3 of being trapped inside Cliff Lodge.
Yep, a lot of waiting around and looking outside.
He and others at Snowbird Resort are under interlodge. They aren't allowed to leave the building because of severe avalanche danger.
Everyone's pretty antsy. There's definitely some cabin fever.
He says he's been interlodged countless times, but never for this long.
Restaurants are running out of food. There's not enough employees to staff the restaurants.
Just up the road, Kira McNamara is having a forced extended stay at Alta.
We were actually supposed to leave here on Tuesday night for our flight, so we pushed it to tonight, but that might not even happen.
Converting her room at the Gold Miner's Daughter to her office space.
And then we've been trying to get some work done too, since we are not home for work at this point.
Right now, this is as far as drivers can go. Skiers and staff stuck at Alta and Snowbird around 7 miles from this point. And John Gleason with UDOT says there's no telling when the road will open again.
This is probably about the highest avalanche danger that we've experienced.
The Department of Transportation deals with road closures on a regular basis, but Gleason says this situation is much more intense.
We're seeing these slides triggered in places that we don't usually see slides, and so we're putting the helicopter up there. DPS is working with us on that today. We're dropping explosives from the sky to trigger some of these hard to get areas.
Crews working overtime on the roads and up at the resorts.
Our employees have been working around the clock, digging, making food, helping our guests.
Their work isn't going unnoticed by guests there.
As frustrating as it is, it's just they're doing their best to keep us safe. They're putting in insane hours, doing insane work, putting themselves at risk all the time.
But Stone is hoping for some fresh air in the near future.
Just try to be patient. We've all had a lot of powder days this year, so hopefully we can get a few more.
In Little Cottonwood Canyon, Lucy Nelson, Fox 13 News, Utah.
With this extended winter, how shelters had to modify their ways of operating.
We definitely made a difference.
4 death row inmates in Utah are suing the state. I'll tell you why.
The Eccles Dino Park is expanding, but at a wildlife rehab center's expense. I'll tell you the plans that's left the center feeling helpless.
Can you guess what neighborhood in Salt Lake County is experiencing snow levels like this? Hint, it's not in the Cottonwoods. We'll tell you where.
The Masters tees off tomorrow. Tony Finau's in the field. We'll hear from him coming up.
Thanks so much for being with us tonight. You know, with winter-like weather still going on, some vulnerable people in our community still need a place to go to stay warm. Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi spoke to the founder of a warming center in Logan. When they opened just a few months ago, she now shares an update on what they're dealing with through the extended winter.
We definitely made a difference and a positive impact and saved some lives this winter.
The William A. Bernard Warming Center opened this winter. The founder, Nicole Bernard, who named the center after her grandfather, says it was one of the first of its kind in Cache Valley to help people who needed a place to stay when the temperature dropped below freezing, helping over 100 people in the area. But they didn't anticipate winter to be this long. Their permit was only to operate till March 31st.
When it got closer, we were looking at the weather and we were like, oh, wow, it's going to continue to be cold. And we're also feeling worried because we want to make sure that our guests are taken care of, right?
So they partnered with a local nonprofit, For Helping Hearts, to continue helping those in need.
We contributed a couple $1,000s to them so that they could connect the guests and any other unhoused folks who needed shelter this week into hotels.
Something else new this year is the Salt Lake City Public Library increasing their efforts to help people.
For some people, that's books. Other people, it's programs. And for some folks, it's, the social services.
The library added a new social services coordinator so people, especially vulnerable and unhoused ones, can walk in and get connected to the resources they need.
Being an organization that can support the community, we are here for people to come, spend the time, not have to spend any money, whether it is because they want to, read a newspaper, check out cat videos, or, read a story to their kid, or, just have a warm place to stay.
The state homelessness coordinator, Wayne Niederhauser, says shelters and resource centers across the Salt Lake County saw more people than they expected.
340 beds that we planned on, more than we ever had before. We got them open sooner than we ever had opened them before on November 1st. And it was apparent that we needed at least about another 100 beds through the winter.
Wayne Niederhauser says they usually plan to keep shelters open till April because the weather can be unpredictable. But this is the longest that they've stayed open since they had to open in November instead of January. He says the goal is to find a more permanent and long-term solution for those in need. In Salt Lake City, I am Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Today, a man was killed in West Haven after he was hit by a snowplow. This happened right around 3:30 a.m. The Utah Highway Patrol says the man was walking south on 1900 West at Commerce Way when the privately owned snowplow hit him. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. UHP has not released his name, but do say he was 39 years old. Investigators are still working to determine who was at fault. The first defendant in a scheme that stole $500 million in biofuel tax credits was sentenced to prison today. A federal judge sentenced Sally Kingston to 6 years in prison. She is to report in July of this year. She pleaded guilty in 2019 to a count of conspiracy to commit mail fraud, also a count of money laundering. She happens to be the wife of Jacob Kingston. He is to be scheduled to be sentenced this Friday. In all, 4 members of the polygamous Kingston family and a 5th person were convicted. They used a company called Washakie Renewable Energy to defraud a federal program to produce more environmentally friendly fuels. The government is now attempting to recoup the losses by seizing assets it says were financed with laundered money. A lawsuit filed against the state of Utah is challenging the death penalty. Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow is on Capitol Hill with the exclusive story.
The lawsuit was filed by 4 inmates currently on death row in Utah, challenging the state's capital punishment statutes. Ralph Menzies, Douglas Carter, Troy Kell, and Michael Archuleta are suing the governor and Department of Corrections. They've been on death row for decades, awaiting execution. The last inmate executed in Utah was Ronnie Lee Gardner in 2010. He died by firing squad. The lawsuit cites Gardner's execution and says his death was not instantaneous. Lawyers for the inmates challenge Utah's death penalty method, saying it creates substantial risk of a botched firing squad execution because, among other reasons, it creates a realistic possibility that 1 or more projectiles will miss the heart. On lethal injection, they write, it lacks sufficient detail and important safeguards to guard against the maladministration of the lethal injection process. They ask a judge to strike down the state's execution methods as unconstitutional. Under Utah law, lethal injection is the primary method of execution. But if the drugs needed to carry out one aren't available, firing squad is the default method. In a statement to Fox 13 News, the lawyer representing the condemned inmates says ensuring that prisoners are treated humanely is essential to maintain the integrity of Utah's criminal justice system. This lawsuit seeks to protect the rights of prisoners to be free from unnecessary pain at the hands of the government. In 2021, the legislature considered a bill to do away with the death penalty. It went nowhere on Utah's Capitol Hill. Governor Spencer Cox's office and the Utah Attorney General's office had no comment on the pending litigation. So far, no court date has been set yet. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Many causes and community groups now working to raise awareness of their needs during the month of April. One of those that has a particular impact on Utah's community is sexual assault. Advocates for ending sexual violence in Utah say our state has had higher rates of rape than the national average for decades. Today, they recognized the progress made during the past legislative session, including modifications to rape crisis centers and online dating safety amendments.
Utah has higher rates of rape than the national average, and we have since 1991. It negatively affects our community in every aspect, and it's time that this changes. If we have all of those that hear this message, believe survivors and victims, encourage them to come forward and report, then we can begin to change this.
They also challenged all Utahns to take the Start by Believing pledge. To learn more about the pledge and how advocates say it can help sex assault survivors, head to startbybelieving.org. A Senate committee has failed to advance one of our governor's nominees for Utah's air quality. The Salt Lake Tribune reports Dr. Suzanne Harrison's nomination failed on a tie vote. One Republican on the committee voted with Democrats to support her nomination. Lawmakers on the committee objected to Harrison's positions on fossil fuels when she was in the legislature. Now, it is still unclear if the governor will seek to have another vote. Yesterday was the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today, Utah's governor and first lady honored students who paid tribute to his legacy through art and essays. This was the first year that students from 7th through 9th grade were invited to participate in the contest, all centered on Dr. King's principles of nonviolence. Awards were presented to the winners at the Utah State Capitol.
When I take the moment to get proximate, to listen to their story, to listen to their struggles, I find so much common ground. And that's what Dr. King preached. That's what Dr. King lived. He lived this idea of our shared humanity, our shared connectedness through nonviolence, that we can use our voices.
9 students were awarded with computers for their work. Well, coming up, the city of Ogden is forcing a wildlife rehab center to shut down. Why the city says it's to the benefit of the community.
And coming up, our storm is clearing out. We have some nice weather on the way. What to expect heading into Easter weekend coming up.
A wildlife rehab center must close its doors in 5 months so another next-door organization can expand its property. The notice to vacate came as a shock to the facility that's been in Ogden for over a decade now. They tell Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser if they can't find a new home in time, they'll have to put all the animals down.
For 12 years now, the creatures of the past and the creatures of the present have been neighbors.
We take in about 4,000 animals per year, and we cover all of northern Utah.
At the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center of Northern Utah, locals will call in or drop off injured animals.
Hi, little man.
Inside, you'll find a bald eagle so badly electrocuted it lost its ability to fly, a red-tailed hawk with brain swelling it can't eat on its own, or a beaver named Justin Beaver enjoying tub time a day after surgery.
We see the suffering, and we see them coming in pain, and being able to correct that and give them a second chance is the best feeling in the world.
The city told Executive Director Delynn Marthaler their contract is up. They now have only 5 months to find a new home and move the animals as the neighboring George S. Eccles Dinosaur Park expands.
It's just not possible to happen in 180 days.
This lot, which is owned by the city, will become part of the Dino Park's expansion. It'll become a parking lot and a maintenance shed to build more dinosaurs.
If we don't have a home that we can legally occupy, they have to be euthanized.
Marthaler says they have to stop taking in animals at the end of the month. She'll meet with the mayor next week. The city says the Dino Park gets tens of thousands of visitors a year, and it's a site unique to Ogden.
We're really grateful for all the work that the rehab center's done over the last decade or more. And during this transition, the city wants to be as accommodating as possible to make sure that they're able to continue with the good work that they're doing.
In Weber County, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead, this week's spring snowstorm is coming to an end, but some neighborhoods are still digging out of the snow. They're trying to. We'll show you more.
Utah gymnast Jaden Rucker has been perfect in her last 2 vaults. We'll hear from the defending national champion coming up in sports. And the day before the first round of the Masters, Tony Finau played in the par 3 competition with his family. He'll tell us what that tradition means to him.
Well, buildings in downtown Salt Lake City could get even taller under a new proposal before the city council. It would create new requirements that allow taller buildings in downtown as well as nearby neighborhoods. Previously, the city has had limits on how tall buildings can be without approval, but new apartment towers are going up that will be some of the tallest buildings in the city. The city council will take public comment at its meeting on April 18th. The Salt Lake County Council is advancing an idea to put a sort of tax on hotels in the downtown area. It's a special convention and tourism assessment on hotels. The money then goes into a fund involving Visit Salt Lake, which is the area's tourism authority. That would be used to market Salt Lake City for more conventions and tourists. The county council estimates it could generate millions in revenue every year. The fund does have support from hoteliers in the area. The council will consider the idea again next month. Well, people across Utah found themselves under a lot of snow this week, but some neighborhoods got a lot more snow than others. People living in the Suncrest neighborhood of Draper on top of South Mountain say they haven't seen snow levels like these in years. Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule spoke with neighbors about how they're handling all this season's snow.
I told my wife this morning, another day in paradise.
It's a neighborhood that has the luxury of sitting above most winter inversion.
We are above the inversion quite a bit.
But it's also a neighborhood with snow covering roads.
I have videos when the roads were really bad. We had people snowmobiling and skiing and snowboarding down our roads.
Fences.
For the other people with the bigger dogs, they can now just walk over the fences.
And mailboxes.
About a month ago, they were covered completely and we didn't know where they were. And I left them covered for about 3 days and we didn't get mail.
Suncrest residents like Kea Chavez and Matt Fjellstead have been working hard all winter to keep their homes and driveways clear.
My entire work schedule has changed. I do all the snow blowing so that my husband can get in and out while he goes to work.
Last night I came out at about 9 o'clock and I thought maybe we had 2 feet from the last couple of days. Because of the wind, I had over 6 feet for half my driveway. It took me 2.5 hours to clear it.
The National Weather Service says in this storm, as of 9 p.m. Tuesday, Suncrest got 29 inches of snow, adding to the feet already here. Fjellstead and Chavez say they've never seen piles like this. And for reference, I'm 5'9".
The plows make what my wife calls the barricade, and that's where you can't get out of your driveway. And then, of course, the plows put it down here, and our snow blowers put it over there.
But this is by far worse than anything we've ever seen. We were looking at Facebook memories last year where we were complaining or talking about a foot of snow still, and now we have this year.
But Fjellstead and Chavez have no regrets moving to Suncrest. They say the neighborhood camaraderie
Hey, how you doing?
Makes all the snow worth it.
People do help each other out, and that's a good thing.
At least with my neighbors, it's kind of like a race. Whoever gets out first does what they can, and we just all race to help each other.
In Suncrest, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
My goodness.
That is so much snow. I guess I don't have much to complain about anymore.
I know. Well, we've got a coworker who lives there, and whenever we get the winter storm warnings for like the Cottonwood Canyons, I'm like, that's part of you guys too. I mean,
yeah, it's a lot. I mean, beautiful views up there. Hopefully today's sunshine
has helped
out those people.
Those snow drifts. The guy's saying it's 6 feet of snow on his driveway.
Epic. Yeah, a season to remember.
A season they'll certainly never forget, that's for sure. And a beautiful view tonight. Speaking of the mountains, this picture just came in from Jason. I'll step out of the way so you can see it. This is tonight's pink full moon. The full moon itself is not going to be pink. It's called that because it's our April full moon's name, and it's just because we've got spring, things are starting to blossom, so that's why they named it the pink full moon. But we're gonna have a very cold night tonight if you're gonna step outside and see that. I think it's supposed to peak in about 2 or 3 hours. The rest of tonight, cold and clearing. You'll have a beautiful view of that. It's going to be a chilly start tomorrow, but dry. And the sunshine tomorrow will be helping melt the snow that is still out there. It's probably going to take quite a while for that snow to melt, though, in areas like Suncrest and Draper. As we look at northern Utah, mostly clear sky. We're going to end up with chilly conditions tonight here across the state. And then over the next couple of days, our temperatures are on the rise. So hour by hour forecast into tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., about 20 degrees for Ogden, Salt Lake, Provo, Eagle Mountain, Tooele. Into Manti, 10 degrees. Same thing for Beaver tomorrow morning. Single digits for Park City, Bryce Canyon, and and Evanston. Logan, you're into the teens tomorrow morning. Cache Valley. Uinta Basin, into the teens tomorrow morning. Same thing for Price. St. George right around freezing as you wake up tomorrow. Throughout the day tomorrow, we'll be warming into the 40s for much of the state, but then we're going to have even more comfortable temperatures heading into this weekend. So if you're thinking about your Easter plans for Sunday and you're like, my goodness, there's just so much snow, how are we going to do this? We will have some much better weather, potentially patio weather by Sunday. Salt Lake City 43 tomorrow, Ogden 43, Provo 46. We look at central and southwest Utah. Cedar City tomorrow near 50, same thing for Richfield. St. George low 60s. And for tomorrow across eastern Utah, Uinta Basin close to 40, 46 for Price, and Moab 55 degrees. I asked a question on my Facebook page tonight about where would you live if money was not a concern and family was not a concern, and a lot of people wrote Moab. We've got some great weather in Moab the next couple of days. I agree, that'd be a pretty awesome place to live. Now, things will potentially get active again towards the end of our 7-day forecast, but we're mainly going to have dry conditions through Easter weekend. For Ogden, for Provo, and for St. George, your chance of precipitation pretty dry heading into Easter weekend. So we look beyond our 7-day forecast and the second half of our 7-day forecast also. Things are heating up, okay? So St. George next week, yes, we will have things running really cold, fast, and high for our creeks and streams. Be really careful with your kids and your pets especially. For us here in Salt Lake, we're also warming up, but there's not as much of a flooding concern because it's going to be a pretty gradual warm up. Yes, things running fast, cold, and high, but we look after our 7-day forecast into week 2, and our temperature outlook is going to return cooler than average again. So we're going to have colder temperatures on the way for the 13th through the 19th of April.
It will be all business for Tony Finau when he plays in his 6th Masters tournament tomorrow. Today it was all about family and fun at the par 3 competition with his wife and 5 children joining him inside the ropes.
Of all the traditions they have here at Augusta National and the Masters, this is the one I like the most. I love to have my family here with me. It's just so fun and so cool. It's like the calm before the storm. You know, tomorrow the storm starts. You know, we're all trying to chase after a green jacket, but today I'm just cruising along a par 3 golf course. I grew up on a par 3 golf course, so it's my favorite type of course to play. And then to have my family with me, they've got the jumpsuits on, they got the hats. It's my favorite tradition.
The 2nd-ranked Utah gymnastics team is headed to their 47th consecutive national championship next week after placing first in regionals last week. Defending vault national champion Jaden Rucker put a big role with 2 perfect 10s in the vault. Watching Jaden Rucker stick her vault is truly amazing. She makes it look easy, but that wasn't always the case as a young gymnast.
I honestly was a little up and down. I was good in the lower levels. When I had to start like doing double flips and stuff, I was like, I don't know, Mom. I don't know if this is for me. I would say that I think the best years of my gymnastics career have been in college.
She's definitely peaking right now. She had 2 vaults at regionals, and they were both perfect 10s.
Jaden Rucker, the national vault champion, gets a perfect 10.
It's insane. I don't think I'll ever get over scoring a 10. It's something that it just is so satisfying to me, and I've worked my whole life to do it. So when I actually do see the 10-0 on the board, it's like insane, and I just feel so blessed that I'm able to do it.
A perfect 10 for Jaden Rucker on vault.
You know she's nailed it just by seeing the reaction on her face when she sticks the landing. Just pure joy.
We see what it looks like, but what does it feel like when you land and hit and you're like, there it is?
I think my face says it all. It's exactly what it feels like. It's just like all of the work pays off in that one moment, and it's just everything that I ever wanted to feel in that moment. So I think my reaction really shows how it feels on the inside as well.
Jaden now has 3 perfect 10s this season on the vault, tying the school record.
I definitely came here to break records and create my own legacy, but I also came here to help my team get to where they want to be. Personal accolades isn't everything for me, as long as I'm doing whatever I can for my teammates and helping them get to where we need to be, and just wanting to win a national championship with my team is what I came here to do.
You gotta love a sport like that where you can be so good individually, but your number one focus is the team.
Your team, the unity together. Oh, she does make it look easy.
I know, it's amazing. Flip it up in the air and just landing perfectly.
Sticks it perfect.
Oh, she's really good.
Best of luck to the entire Red Rock team.
Yeah, right?
We'll be right back. All right, what do you do when a lot of snow falls the week of Easter? This? Isn't this what you did, Allison?
Oh my goodness, I could never do something this incredible.
Oh, it's so good. Huge Easter Bunny snow sculpture. Check out this photo from some of our viewers in North Ogden. Cammie, Amy, and Adam, thanks so much. Job well done.
Round of applause for that.
Thanks everyone for joining us. QuickCast is next.